Alright, I'm still a little tired. I'm still a little messed up today, so I'm gonna try to go through another one of these. I think this one will be an easy, because I'm on an easier one, which is one at a time. So practice that. And I'm still kind of doing this. I was thinking about doing another walk back similar to this one. So I'm at 4 o'clock, collection of notes around the key of C, and then I was walking this back and then forward. So the other easy thing to do would be to walk it back. Let's just continue with this just to keep noodling around. If I walked this back, so again, my theory is if I'm just practicing rhythm, I'd like to be able to choose any notes, right? And they should work, because my practice here isn't note selection really. I'm just trying to get different patterns through the fretboard so I can travel without getting stuck in the box so much, right? So I'm like, oh, I can see this diagonal patterns all over the place, right? I'm crisscrossing all over the place. I'm jumping through backyards, running through the water drainage system that they put the fence up. You just go right through it. You're like, whatever, I'm going right through. I don't need to go around the block. Look, you have to stay in the block. No, you just go right. If you know how to get through, then you just go right through like the, and you get all the shortcuts, and then you get there faster. So it seems to me if you're kind of noodling around, that's going to be useful. So because they're all in the same pattern, I'm just practicing the patterns from different angles, and that'll give me different rhythms, I feel like. So I was going back. No, the other thing I was thinking is if I go back like this, like what if I tried to stack, like if I'm trying to memorize this pattern, the shape going backwards like that. I was doing it one at a time, which was difficult enough. But to really get it, maybe if I staggered them, I go like boom boom, and then I jump down here, go boom boom, and then I go up boom boom, and then I jump down here boom boom, right? So I do every other one: the top, middle, up to above that, and then bottom. So could I do that? That would be hard. Now the other thing I can obviously do with these patterns is not hit them one at a time, right? I could start messing with beats like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so then I could go down to here. Maybe I go down to here, but then I want to walk it back to the open D back here. So then I go down to here, and then I run it back this way. And as I move back, I'm gonna go back, and then I'll hit the one up top here, and I'll go across this top string. So now I'm gonna be like. Maybe I go down to this one, go down one more, go down to here, and then I run it back this string. That would be better, because then I get a D right there. Then I get a Dorian, Dorian, Dorian to Dorian, and then I walk back the Dorian, and as I walk it back, I'm going to go here, but I don't want to play that open. I'm going to get to that one, but I'm really going to go here, and I'm going to play that open Dorian right there. So that's a power chord Dorian right there. So I'm going to go, okay. Dorian 2 modal half step, Dorian 2. Let's try a joke. Might have to call it a day early. I call it a day. It's a day. It's a day. I can call it a day right here, right now. It's a day, dang it. Okay. Alright. So I've been watching, I don't know if anybody's, obviously the drama out there, one of the dramas, I don't know how widespread is this crazy lady, the Candace Owens keeps on going after some other dude's husband that's been killed. It's crazy. So I was like, tried to make a rant out of it. Hopefully it's not, it's kind of it was based off of a pun. So I don't know. I was like, let's just go through it. I might not do it quite right here. Basketball players are a lot like lawyers, you know, because when they've got a problem, they take it to court. Rules, referees, evidence, very civilized, you know. But certain crazy female podcasters, when they've got a problem, they don't take it to court. They take it to courting. They're like, forget the judge. I'm just going to steal the other lady's husband. It's not legitimate. It's flirtation. Now, normally that's already crazy, but sadly, not that unusual. That kind of happens fairly regularly. I mean, if you look at the reality TV shows, at least. However, this situation takes it to a whole new level. I mean, I thought Jerry Springer was bad. You watch Jerry Springer, and this is like, and then they move the food tray out so they can fight and stuff. It's like, I thought that was bad, but no, we've gone down a few levels. However, this situation takes to a whole new level, man, because the husband she's trying to steal is dead, and she's already married. So it's like, so this isn't just courting the other lady's man anymore. This is basically a fight for post-mortem intellectual property rights to rewrite the history of another woman's deceased husband. And I thought, you know, look, I thought Disney buying franchises just to change the canon retroactively was bad. You know, I was pissed off. Yeah, I was pissed off when they you know, buy like Star Wars or whatever, and then they just completely retcon it, making prequels that completely undermine the entire narrative. But this is this takes it to a whole new level. Like, but wow, this is a whole new level, a whole new freaking. This is the postmodern revenge courting level. That's right, she's trying to start love triangle with a ghost at this point in time. Meanwhile, her own husband is probably sitting at home like, wait, am I being cheated on with like a dead guy or something? And then suddenly I understand why civilization invented courts in the first place. You know, originally I thought the court system was put in place to prevent like multi-generational blood feuds, you know, angry dudes killing each other because of some slight that like from 5 generations ago or something like that. But no, it's to stop the multi-generational revenge courting. That's what you need to have some kind of intervention, or the thing gets out of control. Because if people can't take it to court, they start trying to take it to courting, and that's the most dangerous place on the planet. All right, I don't know if any of that totally made sense. But man, crazy situation. I'm like amazed. I swear, I thought I used to think the tabloids and Jerry Springer, and then reality TV where they put all these different people that they know hate each other in the same room just so they can laugh at them as they get mad at each other. I thought all that was like, I thought we were at rock bottom. You know, I was like, the naivety. I was like, that's rock bottom. We can't get worse than that. But then, man, this lady's crazy. But anyway, let's see what we got. I'll see if I have a song on it.
Basketball players are a lot like lawyers. When trouble shows up, they know what to do. Got a disagreement, got a big complaint, they take it to court and they see it through. Rules on the books, referees on the floor, evidence laid out nice and neat. Arguments flying, whistles blowing, civilized conflict in a legal seat. You take it to court, you argue the case, let the judge decide who's wrong or right. But some folks skip the courtroom doors and start themselves a brand brand new fight. They don't want law, they want romance, a scandal played in public view. If you can't take it to the courthouse, they start taking it to court in two. But certain wild podcast personalities got a slightly different strategy. When they got beef with another woman, they skip the law and change the category. They like, forget the judge and the jury, forget litigation reports, I'll just go steal the other lady's husband. That's not litigation, that's flirtigation in court. Now normally that's already crazy, but sadly not that rare. Human drama's been messy forever. People get weird when love's in the air. But this situation climbed another mountain, a brand new level of absurdity. Because the husband she's trying to steal is dead and she's married already. So now it isn't just stealing a man or some romantic history fight. It's basically battling for copyright claims on somebody else's married life. Trying to rewrite the story backwards into the chapters of another woman's past. And I thought Hollywood buy an old franchise just to change the rules back. You take it to court, you argue the facts, let the evidence settle the score. But if you skip the courtroom entirely, people start inventing war. They start new scandals, new romances, dragging ghosts into the fray. If you don't settle things with a gavel, human drama finds another way. This is postmortem revenge courting now, a brand new level of bizarre. She's trying to start a love triangle with a ghost who's left this morning. Meanwhile, her husband's on the couch at home, watching the whole thing unfold like a show. Hold on a second, wait a minute, am I being cheated on with a ghost? And suddenly I understand something about civilization's oldest tool. I thought courts were built to stop blood feuds, ancient clans acting like fools. Maybe the bigger reason society built those courthouse doors was to stop the endless cycle of multi-revenge courting wars. Because when people can't take it to court, history shows what humans start doing. They start filing lawsuits with lawyers and start filing romance lawsuits through courting.
All right. Okay. Let's get back to work. Let's see. It's crazy, man. Crazy. What if that lady was after you? That'd be terrifying. Oh God. All right. Anyways, let's get back to it. We're gonna say, let's bring this back to a 4. Okay. What am I doing? So okay. So now I'm just gonna build piece by piece the chords and focus on it one thing at a time, and then practice the rotation and our intervals and whatnot. So once again, I'm at the 4 o'clock collection notes around the key of C. I was leaning forward. I want to lean forward first, so that means I'm down here. Okay. So that means that means that the Ionian, if you look at it on the top string, the one closest to the ceiling, it's going to be the 10th fret up, first string down from the top. That's going to be the C going back to the A, and that's what I would call position number 1. You might call it the Aeolian position or the Ionian G shape. But we're going to be looking at the Dorian, which is the second string down from the ceiling. That means anytime the second string down from the ceiling, anytime I want that to be the Dorian, then I'm leaning forward into what I would call shape numero uno, number 1. All right, so now I'm building a chord on it, and I'm just looking at one at a time. So I'm just adding the third. So when I build a chord, I don't take the next note in the collection of notes. We skip every other note. So I would call that one modal whole step if you're taking a look at just the 7-note collection, modal whole step as opposed to a note whole step. Not 2 notes away, 2 modal points away from the 7-note collection, which aren't all evenly spaced, but as long as you name the starting point, then that's how you stack a chord, right? I mean, might as well use that, right? So we're going to say that's going to be, so if I'm on the Dorian and I go one modal whole step up, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's going to be on nodal point number 2, 3, 4, and that gets me to the Lydian note. Now, if I'm leaning forward, the standard Lydian would be here in the shape that our classical shape that we're basically building is like an A minor shape. But I'm just building it one at a time. So that would be, we would be grabbing here. If I grab these two, that would be my A minor shape, and then the root would be here. But we're just going to grab the third first, which is typically down here in that shape. Okay. So that's where we start. So that's where we started out. So that means that nodal point number 4 is always nodal point 2's first modal whole step times 2 second modal half step plus 1 third scale degree, and it has a short distance or minor distance of 3 notes away as opposed to a long distance or major distance of 4 notes away. So that's going to be our starting point. Okay. So then, all right. Okay. So now, what I'm going to do is so if I was going to name a chord on that, is it 2 notes a chord? Possibly not, but some people would argue it is. So if I named a chord, you can't really name that as easily with the standard construction because it assumes 3 notes as the standard stack, right? So you can't really have a chord less than 3 or it gets wonky. So you'd have to, but you could call it a D minor drop 5, right? So just the 1 and the 3. But if you call it from the Dorian space, and the chord construction fits perfectly because it would just be I'm in the collection of notes around 4 o'clock. I'm going to name it by Dorian, and then the first number after that is in modal whole steps, second number in modal half steps. So it would just be a Dorian 1, right? Because 1 modal whole step up is how we would stack it. If I add the 5, it would be a Dorian 2, and that just means that we're going to take every other modal half step, which would be every modal whole step from the root. We're just stacking like you normally stack it. Instead of naming the last point by saying that we're going to do that in scale degree points, meaning that's kind of like a distance term. Well, it's still like a distance term, but we're just going to name it in terms of steps, right? Modal whole steps. That's how you build a chord. You take every modal whole step. So, and if you do that, then again, like what if I added another note? You could add notes that are even outside the collection, right? So if I added this note right there, just to think about that chord name before we get too complicated from a chord construction standpoint, then it would be a D1 add, and that's going to be nodal point. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, fourth modal half step up, but it's going to be 4.5 because it's in the ocean. So you could still add the ocean notes, right? So it'd be a Dorian 1 add 4.5. Notice, however, I don't need the add or plus, and I don't need 4.5 because it's always 5. I could just say point. So even if you add the ones that are outside the collection, as I'm building a chord, then it easily slots in, right, in just modal half-step terminology, or the ones that are in the ocean, you might just name it by the nodal point, what's in the ocean. But either way, it'd be a Dorian. I was thinking about that before. A Dorian 1, 6.5, and the second one, a Dorian 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A Dorian 1, 4.5. Or else you can call the ones that are in the ocean by the nodal point, because that would be. I think I don't want to get into that right now. Anyway, let's not get into that. My head's not ready for that now. My head's not ready for that kind of thing. Okay, so let's say that. So now let's say that I want to make that Dorian like the Ionian. So now we're going to make it the Ionian. So I'm playing in Dorian, which is a minor type of mode. And I want to make it Ionian. Now, Ionian is the main major type of chord. So that means, where is the Ionian? Well, if I'm on the Dorian, that's nodal point number 2. Ionian must be 1 modal whole step back from it. And I know, because of the whole half formula, that 1, 2, 2 is always a whole step. That means that 2 back to 1 is always, you can say, a negative whole step. Or in other words, it's 1 modal. It's 1 modal half step back, which is equivalent to 7 minus 1, or 6 modal half steps forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets you to an Ionian as well, right? So I'm going to say, okay, and what shape is that? If I look at the current collection of notes, that then is what I would call shape number 5, or the Mixolydian shape, or the Ionian A shape. So that means if I was to play that back there, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Do, 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 do. And so now I could then pretend that this then is that note right there and play the same thing, right? So I could say, well, what if I just pretend, I'm still keep on going back to G because I was doing that so many times, but it would be, if that was the 1, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a sec, I got messed up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So why does that work? Well, I could say that I'm pushing this up 2 ticks. So either I'm going to think in terms of the collection of notes got ticked up 2 ticks, or I'm going to think, I don't want to think of the collection of notes as being ticked up 2 ticks. I want to build off of that Dorian, but I'm going to throw on top of it the shape of Ionian, possibly building a chord. So those would be my 2 options to kind of name or think about it, right? So if I'm on this Dorian note, I'm like, I don't want to make that Ionian, but I want to make it a major, even though I'm still going to peg it on the nodal point of Dorian. So like if I was playing a minor chord here, it's like, now I want to play a major chord. I want to play an Ionian chord on it, but I don't want to switch my thinking to a whole nother collection of notes. Well, then I would call it a Dorian / Ionian chord. It's a Dorian / Ionian 2 modal whole step chord, meaning it's a 3-note Dorian / Ionian chord. Or, right, so that then I can name it that, or I could name it from the perspective of the Dorian, which would mean that the third would be like in the ocean, right? So it would be over here. So then I'd have to say, okay, that's going to be a Dorian 1.5 or something, right? So 1 point, because it's like in the ocean. But I'm still thinking about that. So anyways, so I could name it that, or I could say, well, look, I am going to change the collection of notes. I want to change the entire collection of notes in my mind. Now, the reason I keep on emphasizing this is because I keep on looking at the way people explain this stuff, and it's like they're not really clear on which way they're viewing it. You can kind of figure out how they're seeing it when you hear people talk about it, but it's almost like people are using conventions that I don't feel like are that specific in terms of like you have to be thinking of it from one perspective or another, you would think, right? You'd have to be thinking, okay, I'm in this basic collection and I'm going to build on this nodal point and I'm going to build something that's outside the collection. Or you're thinking, I'm going to change the collection of notes entirely and now be in a different collection. Even if you're just playing the chord switches, you would think that those two options are the basic two ways that you're going to approach the chord switches. Am I changing the whole shape in my mind? Am I just playing a pentatonic on top of it that's like that I'm going to play over all shapes and just change my note, my center point? Right? It would be nice if you like I say, if you named it by nodal points and you gave yourself a key signature, you could be specific, right, about which angle you're looking at, which allows you to tell people what you're doing. And again, like I always go back. You know what? I was listening. Sorry to go on a tangent here, but I was watching this Andy. What's his name? Andy whatever again? Because I was listening to before, and he put out some wacky. I don't know. Andy Edwards, right? He put out some wacky thing yesterday. I think he's trolling. He's trolling because it's like, what in the world? Like, but because I like I was, and the reason I see, because he's kind of bouncing all over the place in his thoughts, and I think it's on purpose because he was doing like some kind of psychedelic thing, but the danger of being like, when you get in like the creative, I want to be creative, is that sometimes people get into the pseudo. I feel like there's a science and then there's pseudoscience, right? And there's creativity and then there's pseudo creativity, right? And I feel like pseudo creativity is you're trying to mask something, right? You're purposely doing something. It's like a sleight of hand. The whole thing is relied on the magic trick of saying, of like ambiguity. You're being purposely ambiguous because you're not really, because you don't want them to see what you're doing, because that's the magic of it. And that's part of music, I think, and whatnot. However, I think the more creativity could happen if you are specific about if you're trying to communicate specifically what you're doing and why you're trying to do it. The better you can do that, then the more expanding the more you could expand your mind, man, because now you're thinking, because now you have more opportunities, because all the little synapses in your mind, there's more connections, there's more things that you can think about. So the more you go away from just like conventions and whatnot into understanding exactly what's happening and being able to communicate that, the more then you can reach out into the unknown, which is on the edge. What's truly on the edge is the things that you can't explain, and that's what you're exploring. You're exploring them so that you could try to explain them, not just so that you could like be impressed with us. Trying to explore the edge is the creativity. Being ambiguous about what you're doing because other people don't exactly know what you're doing, so what you're doing sounds cool as long as they don't know what you're doing, is pseudo creativity in my mind. I'm making up words here, I know, but it's pseudo because you're not really on the edge there. It's kind of scammy, right? You're just not exactly telling them what you're doing because you're not speaking as clearly as you could, and the creativity has gotten to the level where you could be specific if you wanted to, right? And if we are specific, then creativity will be on the edge somewhere else. You don't have to be totally wonky to be creative. You could be creative in other ways and stuff. I'm just saying, like, if you can communicate what you're doing, you should communicate what your creativity shouldn't be dependent on the fact that it is communicatable, but you're not doing it. You're not communicating it. That's like a magic trick, right? That's like, okay, anyway. But yeah, I was watching, what did he was doing like something, like, honestly, I was a little sick last night, but I was tripping out on like he went all over the place. Cause he's like, he was saying, first of all, he said Napoleon shot off the nose of the Sphinx, which I know is an old legend, but I'm pretty sure it's been debunked. I think he's just trolling us on that one. So I was like, okay, I know the British over there don't like the French and whatever. So, okay, Napoleon shot the nose off the... Napoleon was out there trying to act like a scholarly guy. I don't think he was trying to be scholar. He had a bunch of scientists. I don't think he would shoot the freaking nose off. But then he took it a step further, because the legend I heard was that they shot the nose off the Sphinx just as target practice, because you would need a cannon. They would have had to set up like a cannon or something to shoot the nose off so it's not like they were just shooting muskets at the thing, right? And then he goes further and he says, yeah, they shot the nose off the Sphinx because the Sphinx had an African-styled nose, and the French didn't like that. It's like, okay, now you had to go ahead and call the French. The French are already so scared of being called bigots that they're letting everybody into their country that hates them just so they're not called bigots, and then you had to go and do that, right? And then so I was like, I don't know about that theory. And then he says that the Eastern philosophies were actually more scientific because they're older and all that. And I was like, okay, I get that. He's going into the Eastern philosophy because he's a hippie and whatnot. He's doing his thing. It's like, okay, I'll hear this out. But I don't. So then he said the Eastern philosophies about energy and whatnot it's actually materialism, because the energy represents atoms, man. So they knew that everything was just material. And then the Western guys didn't know that because then the Abrahamic religions came in and they brought this spiritual element that screwed everything up. So they were doing better on the East because they knew that everything was material. And it's like, wait a sec, if you ask a Buddhist or a Hindu about energy, are they going to equate it to atoms? The energy is like the energy is more. Are you just trolling? The energy is more spiritual because it's like the unknown, isn't it? Like if you could explain what it is, then you don't know what it is because it's the unexplainable, man. You can't just say that it's material energy. It's not. You can't just say it's atoms. That doesn't. So I don't know. I don't know what he was doing, man. I think he's just trolling everyone, because I was like, that doesn't. And so then he said, if we just followed that tradition and the Abrahamic religions didn't get in the way, then we would be more scientific right now, because they had their grasp on materialism before we did, because the Abrahamic religions messed it up. And it's like, well, wait a sec, because the ones that were Abrahamic religions are the ones that went more scientific to the ones that weren't. And I'm not saying that's better or anything. I'm just saying nothing that you're saying tracks. Nothing. I don't know. I think he's gonna have to. He's probably put another one out saying I was trolling or something at this point. Cause like, what the heck, dude? But anyways, I do think the Platonic idea and whatnot, which he called spiritualism, kind of works here, in that you're saying the music, when you're trying to visualize music, you're thinking of it as something other, right? Or you have to visualize it some way, right? So meaning, how am I going to visualize it? Do you visualize music as the piano, or do you visualize it as a uniform set of things that have equal spaced distance and whatnot? I would think there's a better way to do that, because there's got to be like the perfect triangle or whatever, if I'm trying to visualize the perfect triangle, then it should be, there is a difference between a piano and like the guitar is a little bit more suited just in terms of if you're trying to visualize the music visualization in general, right? There's better and worse. Anyway, I don't know. So, a little bit of a tangent there. Anyway, let's bring this over. It's going to be 2 ticks to the right. 2 ticks to the right. So if I was on Ionian, 2 ticks would be 4 o'clock, 5, 6, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. All right. Oh wait, no, that's not right. 2 ticks to the right. 4, 5, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Boom. So now I'm leaning forward into shape number 5, the Mixolydian shape, which you might call the Ionian A shape. And of course, now my third is in the ocean. Let's go back to 4 again. And let's say, okay, what if I know the Ionian by the top shapes? So I know it by this shape up top. So I'm like, I know it from like this shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Could I play this Dorian as though it's the top string of shape number 2, or the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape? I could, and I don't even have to account for the kink in the tuning, because I'm not going to get that far if I only go through the scale one time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Why does that work? Because that would be like I went down 1 tick, which would be, oh no, you're visualizing it like it's a platonic form. You're visualizing it outside the cave. That's right, I am. That's right, I am. Why? Because that's the best way to do it. That's how it is. You're getting into the okay, whatever, dude. I'm going to go 1 tick down is equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, and then 1, 2, 3 ticks back. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, so 2 plus 4 gets me to 6 o'clock again. All right, boom. But when I go to 6 o'clock that time, I'm visualizing that this 1 is shifting down and then back, not that this is going 2 ticks to the right. And when I do that, then this string is going to cross the fault line, and as it crosses the fault line, it shifts to the right because this tectonic plate is shifted to the right relative to this tectonic plate. So that means that when this shifts down, it's going to go to the right 1 and then to the left 1, 2, 3, which is a net shift to the left of 2. All right, so let's do it again, and you can visualize all that as I do this. We can visualize it together. That's what I'm going to visualize. You can visualize whatever you want. You can visualize chi as though it's atoms, equivalent to atoms, even though, like, what the heck, dude? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Is that how it works? I don't think so. I'm not an expert on this, but I don't think energy is equivalent to atoms. I don't think they would agree with that. I'm going to go back on over here. Now, what if I had this one down here? I could move this one up 2. If I moved it up 2, that would be equivalent to 5 ticks to the left each, would be 10 ticks to the left, or 7 ticks each to the right, which would be 14 to the right. So it's easier to count in 5s. So I would say every tick up would be -5. So that'd be -10. And I'm at 4 o'clock minus 10 would get me to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6 o'clock. It'd be -6, right? And then 12 minus 6 would be 6, right? That gets me back to 6 again. Sorry, my head is... So now when I visualize this, I'm going to move this one up. Yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so then so now I'm leaning forward once again into shape number 5, the Ionian A shape. And so now I'm like, okay, so now this is the Dorian. If I build a chord, this is the Ionian. If I build a chord off of the Ionian, then what's the first modal whole step away? It's going to be 2 modal half steps. So I'm at nodal point 1, 2, 3. So notice I'm in the ocean here. Why? Because there's a different distance when we measure from the node we were on, Dorian, from the measuring from the node Ionian. So in other words, if I look at this Dorian on this string over here, I have to go, it's too close here, then the relative number would be here. See? But now this one has been pushed out over here. So there we go. So there's a difference. Why? Because the Ionian is part of the we define the club that these nodal points are in by where the second modal half step third scale degree is, major or minor. I would call them short start or long start or short start, right? The Ionians in the long start group, 4 notes away distance for the second modal half step third scale degree. The Dorians in the short start group, 3 notes away. So if I count this out, right, it's going to be 5 notes between the strings. So 5, 10, and then 15 as we cross the fault line. 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 3, which gives us to a local distance of 2, and then 3. Let me do that again. Wait a sec. That was being 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3, and then 4, right? Versus here, it's going to be 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3. So that's a long way of saying if the local distance between these two is 4, the local distance between these two is 3. So so that means that nodal point number 3, Phrygian, is always Ionian's first modal whole step, second modal half step, plus 1 third scale degree, which has a long distance of 4 notes away, as opposed to the Dorian, which is the Lydian is always Dorian's first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree, but it has a short distance of 3 notes away, which you might call major or minor. But again, I think those are carrying more baggage than you would want if you were to trim everything down to try to compete with the machines, with the AI. We have to trim things down, people. Okay? We have to, it's time. The AI is after us. We need to get more efficient. Okay? Okay. You can't be efficient. That's not creative. No, it is. No, it is. It is creative to do it efficiently. Okay. I'm gonna say now we have everything mapped out here. So, and at 4 o'clock, this is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th fret up, 2nd string down. That's the star of D. So star of D leaning forward into shape number 1, which you might call the Aeolian shape or the Ionian G shape. And so now what if I want to make that nodal point the Ionian? Well, my finger's on the star of D. Here's the Ionian. It's going to be 1 nodal point back because I'm on second Dorian nodal point 2. So obviously 1 nodal point back is the current shape that it's in. That Ionian is leaning forward into the Mixolydian shape, or shape number 5, or you might call it the Ionian A shape. If I move it 2 ticks to the right, then if that's at 4 o'clock, it's going to get to 6 o'clock. And that means that this nodal point number 1 is going to go up 2 ticks from a C to 4, 5, 6, a D, right? So a collection of notes around D. So we're going to hit this up 2 times, boom. So now from the perspective of the yellow, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret up, 2nd string down, leaning forward into shape number 5, Mixolydian shape. Okay, what if I only know it by the top string? So here's the Ionian. I would be leaning forward then into shape number 2, the Locrian / Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape. Could I play this Dorian as though it was the top string of shape number 2, or the Ionian E shape? I could, as long as I account for the kink in the tuning, which I might not have to do if I'm only going through one scale, right? So why does that work? Because that would be like going down one tick. Going down one tick is equivalent to going 5 to the right or 7 to the left. 5 to the right is easier to think about in fives than sevens, and then 1, 2, 3 to the left. So 5 minus 3 would be a net of 2 to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock plus 2, that once again gets us to 6 o'clock. So down 1 over here, ba-boom. So now we can see that from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My finger's on the star of D, still leaning forward, however, leaning forward now into shape number 5, the Mixolydian shape or the Ionian A shape. But this also is noting that the red is showing us that I can kind of visualize that shape as though it was the top string of shape number 2, Locrian / Ionian shape or the Ionian E shape. Okay, so what if I looked at this Ionian down below? That's the closest. Well, I could do it that way, right? That would mean so now it's a little bit harder to visualize moving this up here because notice this shape down here is crossing the fault line. So if I visualize this as though it was right on top of the fault line, then I'm going to have to deal with the fault line distance in reverse, right? So I might deal with that more when we get to these shapes down below, but just realize that. But anyways, if I move that up, yeah, I could move that up 2 ticks, right? If I go up 2 ticks, that would be equivalent to 10 ticks to the left or 14 ticks to the right. So if it was 10 ticks to the left, then if I'm at 4 o'clock, that would be negative 10 plus 4 would be 6. Is that right? Wait a sec. It'd be 10 ticks. 4 would be 6. Yeah, negative 6. And then 12 minus 6 would be positive 6. If I go, all right, let's just keep it at that. So I think that's right. If I go up like that, then boom. So now I can see from the perspective of the yellow, I've going up 5 frets, 2 strings down, and I can see that I'm leaning forward once again to shape number 5, Mixolydian shape, the Ionian A shape. From the perspective of the red, I can see that I can visualize it as though it's 1, 2, 3, 5th string down from the ceiling. Let's do that one more time over here. So now I have all of the constellation mapped out on all of the continents and oceans, and we can see that the open string, open E, is nodal point 3, Phrygian open A is nodal point 6, Aeolian open D is nodal point 2, Dorian open G is nodal point 5, Mixolydian open B is nodal point 7, Locrian open E is nodal point 3, Phrygian in the collection of notes at 4 o'clock. And now we're going up 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 string down. My finger's on the star of D. And let's see. I want to make it, so I'm leaning forward into shape number 1, the Ionian C shape. I want to move this over 2 ticks to get that C over here, because this C is leaning forward into shape number 5, which is the Mixolydian shape or the Ionian C shape. So I'm at 4 o'clock because the 1 Ionian is on C. C is note number 4. If we numbered A as 1 and just numbered all the notes 1 through 12. And if I move it up 2 ticks, it's going to go, if I move it up 2 ticks, it's going to go boom, boom. The Ionian's going to be on the D, 6 o'clock. 6, D is 6, note number 6, if you number them 1 to 12. So we're just going to go up 2 ticks to do. And so there it is. So now we can say that that now I'm leaning from the perspective of the yellow. I'm leaning forward into shape number 5, the Ionian, the Mixolydian shape or the Ionian A shape. And so there we have it. Let's move it back to and say, okay, what if I only know the Ionian from the top shape? This is shape number 2. Ionian's leaning forward into shape number 2, the Ionian E shape. And so, okay, so could I play this Dorian as though it's the top string of shape number 2? I could. Why? Because it would be as though I shifted the planet down 1 and back 1, 2, 3. So if I go down 1, that's equivalent to 5 to the right. Back 3, that's going to be 5 minus 3 or 2. That's a net of 2 to the right. If I'm at 4 o'clock plus 2, that gets us to 6 o'clock. once again. So I can go down. And then, so now from the perspective of the yellow, 5th fret up, 1st string down from the ceiling, leaning forward into shape number 5, the Mixolydian shape, Ionian A shape. And from the perspective of the yellow, then we can see that we can kind of visualize that as though it's the top string of shape number 2, Locrian / Ionian shape, Ionian A shape. Okay. And then, of course, I could visualize it as this Ionian. And if I move that up 2 ticks, that's equivalent to 10 ticks to the left, 5 each, or 14 ticks to the right, 7 each. So if it was 10 ticks to the left, that would be, I would call it -10 plus 4 o'clock that we're on would get us to -6 o'clock. And then I would flip it to positive by saying 12 minus 6 would be a positive 6. If it was 14 to the right, then 14 to the right is already over 12. So I could bring that down by saying 14 minus 12 is 4 minus 2, or 2 to the right. And then, 2 to the right, and then 2 plus 4 o'clock plus 2 is going to be 6 again. So I can move this up, boom. And once again, from the perspective of the yellow, we are leaning forward into shape number 5, the Mixolydian shape, or the Ionian A shape. All right. I'm winding down. I'm just going to noodle around for the rest of the session here until I keel over on my cajon. I'm going to keel over on my cajon. It's going to be one last drum beat, and it'll be all be over.
Bye.